Tubes, what's up? We got Lana Sova, world extraordinaire. She's been everywhere. She's done everything. She was
Child, calm
she was
down.
she was a power. She's the
Calm down.
she's a multi-trillionaire, richest person on YouTube. Need to pay attention to this one. It's going to be a good one.
That ain't they go. That ain't they go.
Have you seen have you ever watched any of Alex Becker's intros? He's like most
Oh my
woke
God, I
billionaire
love this
MT.
dude.
Yeah.
He's
I
so
want to run
funny.
into him in Austin. He's a funny dude.
Is he in
I think
Austin?
yeah, he lives in Austin. I know he's
Oh.
got a couple different things. Like thought he was
Mm-mm.
moving to Dubai, but his YouTube video intros used to crack me up. He's like, if you can't pay attention for 5 minutes and you have to go click on that Taylor Swift video, that's okay, but you're gonna miss
Yeah.
out. It was so funny. It was so funny. It was good.
He's so funny. He really, I mean, he's still pretty good. Like I don't watch a lot of his videos, but I restarted watching again. I'm like, oh, he's actually quite funny.
He had one video I'll go back and rewatch it over time. It's his remake of Sam Evans' Death by a Thousand Cuts. So his dopamine
Mm,
detox stuff. I
hmm
think it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Stuff now is just about crypto and how Cardano holders' wives are running around at Chuck E. Cheese, and you got 4'2" man. It's funny shit. It's funny shit.
Yeah. I mean, he does have a lot of videos on ads and stuff, like the structure and
On his
everything. So that's
business
kind of
droids account, yeah, he's like
hmm
put boner pictures on your ads and you'll get
hmm
rich. So yeah, it's clickbaity
Uh,
as
uh,
fuck, but it works. I like it.
I mean, it fucking works, so might
It
as well.
absolutely does. So
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
100%. And speaking of the game, we live in a game where most people can't sell to women. I know you wanted to talk about that, so let's go right into it. What are most people getting wrong when it comes to selling to women, besides the fact that they treat everyone like a bro? Like what's
That's a really great question. Well, the first thing I would say is that in general, there's like sort of two categories of people that try to sell to women. The first category is women ourselves try to sell to women, right? And there is this notion that, women hate selling, which is true. There's like this, I guess, idea that, like a salesperson is like a sleazy scam bag that try to push you something that you don't want to. I'm sure, as a insurance agent,
fuck?
you would know
Yep.
that. Former insurance agent, right? You would know that. But the reason for that is because, like historically speaking, most salespeople have been men, right? And men are known for like this sort of like, focus thing, go forward, push and get no matter what, right? And that's what the sales sort of thing has been around. But when you think about what a business is and what a successful business, all of them have in common in that the fact that they are able to sell things, right? If nobody pays for your services or your product, you're not in a business, you have a hobby, right? So kind of like moving away from this fear of like, oh, I don't want to be this scammy, person who sells things. My thing has always been like, if you have a product that helps people, you have to sell that to people. Like there is a need for that, then this is your duty to sell, right? But aside from them, right, like this whole thing of like any salesperson treating women as, men with like long hair and I don't know, more feminine figure, just like trying to like talking to women are like, like guys, and we speak differently, right? So like women are more into a conversation, the being authentic, having sort of longer conversations. It takes us a bit longer time to make a decision whether to buy or not. But once we are in that decision process, well, we made a decision, right? Once we buy something, and if it's really good, we stay pretty much for life, or at least a very, very long time, right? Think about, and that might be me as a Eastern European, right? But I actually had a conversation with my hair person who actually is in Poland. And every time I go there, I see him because like he does my hair the best. Like I've traveled all over the world, I've tried a lot of hairdressers and whatnot. And we had this conversation. He goes like, well, I don't know if uh, all women are like that, but there is this trend of like, once women find something good, like a really good service, they tend to stick to it, right? It's like it makes our life a bit easier in the sense like we don't have to make a decision and spend time on making that decision, right? But to get us to that point, you have to include a lot of empathy, which I think that I guess male driven sales tactics don't have that. Like men are not very empathetic
No,
human beings.
you got Andy Elliott. You got Andy Elliott out here. He's like, take your fucking shirt off.
Exactly.
You're fucking fat. Buy my program. All right.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And so this approach, while it does work on men, it doesn't really work on women because there is this idea of like, negative self-admittance, i.e., basically what it does, this approach, it kind of pushes people to take responsibility for their life or like the way that they feel or the way that they look, right? And nobody really wants to do that. And especially for women, because we already have this I would say like a huge wall of like, not enoughness, as I call it, like not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not this enough, not that enough, right? And when you put on top of all of that, huge fucking wall that is like always kind of like lingering on top of you, right? Like always dealing with this, not enoughness. When you tell them, like you're fat because it's you, like you can, you close your mouth or whatever, like we don't want to deal with that. Like, because potentially, I work with, as a fitness coach, like women do understand like, like, yes, I should probably eat a little bit less, like, and sometimes, it could be hormones, but like, it really is up to me. But there are so many other things in my life that are like, going on, like I'm doing and juggling many things. So if you tell me that it's not me, it's going to make me feel a little bit better, right? And I will be more open to potentially hearing your advice and what I should do, right? So there's like this balance between empathy and then also showing them that hey, like, I can actually help you with this thing, and kind of going with this idea of like being a friend, because women very much buy from friends. Like for example, me being a woman and having female friends, if somebody buys something online and they brag about it, guess what? I'll be like, give me the link, I want the same thing, like if I like it, right? Like I'd rather listen to my friend and buy from the same source, then go online and do a bunch of research and that sort of stuff, right? So it's more about like selling being as a friend and a lot of conversational versus just like hammering down like how horrible of a human being you are if you're like slightly fat than the average. You know what I mean?
Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if you disagree with this. It sounds like you've made a couple points. It sounds like when you're selling to women, a philosophy or a frame you should have in mind is how can we help them conserve energy and not waste it?
Yes, that is for sure a fact. But I would say it's not even like I wouldn't go too far to overthink like how can we, help them conserve the energy? Because here's the thing, and here's what, and I know where you get that from. I'm not gonna name any names, but here's the thing. Women, historically speaking, yes, we do want to conserve the energy because we do a lot of things, right? Like, if you're talking to moms, their days are so freaking hectic. I don't even know how they do that, especially, moms for work who have like, work and have 20 children like, and do a bunch of things and running a business. It's a lot, right? But women, historically speaking, we are able to generate that energy from within, that has to do with, feminine energy, right? Guys usually, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from my experience, like guys, um, what do you usually have, like guys who have a woman by their side, they're like, unstoppable, is because they're able to feed off that energy, right? So in a sense, it's like, yes, women are very conservative with who they give the energy and like how they sort of go around, but it's more about being their friend and actually helping them, right? Coming towards them and be like, hey, I am here for you. I can like I'll listen, I don't judge and that sort of stuff. So I'm here to help. So just having the framework, like how can I help them versus how can I, make them feel like shit. That's the difference.
Yeah, dudes, you just got to knock them down, whack them on the head with a hammer, and then sell them. Hey, you got a headache? You want some aspirin?
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's what's funny is I've looked over. I went over my Stripe stuff the other day, and like two-thirds of my customers were women for some reason. I never paid attention to that, but it was like, huh, maybe I should give some more thought
Hmm.
into a lot of this. I find it extremely fascinating. And my last comment comes from I watched a lot of my mom growing up. So she was working three jobs, and she always said, "Well, I'm just too tired. I don't have any energy. I'm too tired. I just don't have any energy."
Hmm.
It's like,
Hmm.
huh.
Hmm.
And I've thought about that a lot as a dude because it's like it seems like women are stretched so thin And that brings me to what you just said a while ago, that wall of insecurities or the negative stuff, like I'm not good enough, uh, my ass doesn't look good in these, like all this negative internal dialogue and like you can call it limiting beliefs, whatever that is. What does all that mean to a woman? How does that dictate their behavior or their
Oh,
decision
a
making?
lot, a lot. Well, the thing is, I think that, and if we kind of go back to the point of like, helping women preserve energy, I do think that, and this is coming sort of from, I guess, the journey of like even myself, like learning who I am as a person, as a woman, and all that stuff. But I think that, and somebody who struggled with a lot of not enoughness, my entire life, I do think that the women do have an abundance of energy. It's just 80% of that energy is actually being used on to like fighting those demons inside of our heads with like not enough, not good enough, what other people think, blah blah blah, and like seeking permission to do things and that sort of stuff, right? So if you help them to, I guess, free up of that energy, right, like from even just one aspect of it, like they're going to have a lot of energy, right, and they're going to be sort of helpful, that you help them in that regard. But in terms of like what does it mean to women? I mean, look, like if we're gonna take the dating example, and I might get canceled for that stuff, but I'm gonna say it as is. There's a lot of women who are waiting to be chosen by a man, right? It's like this thing is like, like, oh, does he like me enough? Like, or like do this whole thing of like, pick me girl, right? Is just like doing the things that the guy
Did you just say
wants
pick
to
me,
do.
girl?
Yeah, yeah, it's like it's a thing, right? So it's like, do the things that you don't necessarily would do, right? Or maybe you wouldn't like. So for example, like play video games. And there's some women who love playing video games. So I'm not cheating on them or anything, but it's just like doing the things you wouldn't otherwise do, but you're only doing them because your dude of interest is actually liking doing them, right? And so this, like the validation stuff, like being chosen and all the things, right? Versus realizing the female power and understanding like it's us who needs to be choosing guys, right? And it's like there's a lot of things that kind of go into that. So and even with this whole like social thing of like um some people would say that moms who work are like not mom enough, right? It's like, oh, you have to be stay at home mom, blah blah blah, right? And then the other thing is like, like moms who do want to stay at home, like, who want to dedicate their entire life to raising the children, right? There's this, like a whole different part of the internet that tells them like, oh, they're not women enough because like, oh, a woman has to, be a mom and have a business and do all the things. So it's really just juggling these social expectations of like what exactly it is to be a woman enough and a mom enough and just like this whole wall of enoughness, really, and then kind of sort of figure out and being like going and seeking permission of other people like, hey, can I do this, can I maybe start a business, is it okay if I do this thing and that thing and that thing, which has been historically kind of put down into women's head with like you have to ask permission to do something before you actually go and do that, right? And it's also the other thing of like not being loud and just kind of hiding and like not outshining other people also has to do with a lot of like your personal traumas, like there is a lot that goes into that.
It absolutely is. That's why I asked about the conservation of energy. Like what we're taught in NLP is like the brain does everything to increase wholeness and
Hmm.
choice, and it works on the principle and path of least resistance. And so I try to see how the different genders play into like that and how the brain works and like what you're talking about. Women in this country might be taught in order what it means to be a woman is you have to be a mother, you have to have kids, and like it's so fascinating to see how different cultures ascribe different meanings to what it means to be something or somebody. It really is a beautiful fucking melting pot. In order to not get lost in the minutia of this, what would you say like how can people fix their mistake of treating women and talking to them like men in order to make more sales? What's the fix for it, in your opinion?
Well, I think the best, and if this is from men who are listening, right? And I'm gonna speak to I guess the person who's a man who's listening to, right? And then I'll speak to a woman who's listening to this or watching this. If you're a guy, right? Like think of it, like you're definitely, I hope that you have a mom that's still alive, right? Or maybe you have a sister, maybe you have a grandma, maybe you have an aunt, maybe you have a girlfriend, a wife, right? Treat every customer that you are writing to or speaking to like your mom or like a woman that you love and adore and appreciate, right? That's probably going to be the best way you can sort of identify like would I speak like what I'm writing, like would that would I give it to my mom to read, right? Would I give it to my sister? Would I give it to my wife? Like, would she appreciate that, right? And if not, you can even go to them and like, hey, honey, or like, hey, mom, like, how would you change that, right? If you were to, like, write it to a woman, just kind of go and ask them, but really have conversations with women, like, don't mansplain, ask questions, because like, and here's the thing, like, I don't hate on men or anything, right? But a lot of the times, like in the communication, like if I don't know how to speak to a man, like or how to do certain things with men, like I'll go and ask a man because like they know better than I do. But when it comes to communication with women, talk to us. We don't bite. I mean, some do, but most of us don't.
Yeah, and for the dudes, there's a fine line for this. I know a lot of you grew up uh, in drug dealer households where you're taught like, well, you have to call a woman a bitch in order for. I don't know
Yeah.
where these guys get. I swear they get all their dating advice from dudes named Kyle who punch holes in their walls. There's pizza boxes under the bed, and it's like it's absolutely hysterical. I think the dynamics between like men and women are so lost in today's day and age. It's we treat each other like shit. There's feminists and there's misogynists who hate the opposite gender like we're not necessary counterparts to procreate. It's like, what do you mean you hate women, dumbass? What does that even fucking mean? Do you not know how you were born? Like, what do you think of your mother?
Well,
It's
I
funny.
mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of that hate towards women comes from like wounds that are not healed, right? It's like it's the anger towards the mother, the very person that might have not been there, during the very formative years, right? Or maybe, she was there, but she wasn't present, right? Or like maybe it's the girl that dumped them and they just didn't really know how to go with that, right? All of the hate comes from the anger, right? And that anger usually comes from not really liking yourself in the first place. It's like it's all stems from within. So before you go out there, and I mean, I'm not a therapist or anything, right? They're just more observations. But it's a lot of the times, like there's also guys who like they will say that, I respect women, but their actions say otherwise, right? And the thing is, like the reason you say you respect women, but then your actions say something different is because you have this sort of love-hate relationship most of the time towards your mother, but you weren't able to sort of express that because maybe she was a very, dominant figure in your life and you didn't really like that, right? Maybe she was kind of like overpowering you. Like there's a lot of things that go into that, right? Again, I don't have a psychology degree, I'm not a
I
psychologist,
don't know. I
anything.
don't trust those people. I'm big on words. Like when I look at I wrote it out. It's funny you mentioned this. That's a joke we have at the gym. Someone lifts something heavy. It's like, what do you want? Therapy? But it's like, if you look at
Mm,
the word psychotherapist, like
hmm
psychotherapist, it's like,
Well, I
something
mean,
doesn't feel right about that word to me. I
yes
don't
and
know.
no. I mean,
I
come
don't
on now.
know. That word, I don't like it.
Potato, like I think there is a need for people, but I do think that a lot of the times people rely on therapists way too much and use it as a crutch versus actually, taking responsibility, like being aware, finding awareness, and then working on that. So there's like, you know, it's useful, but then most people use it more as a crutch.
Yeah, I
So.
think it's beautiful what you said. For you dudes out there listening, uh coming from a dude, my perspective when I hear all that is like relationships don't expose how good you are at being in a relationship. They expose how good you
Mm,
are at being single with yourself. And if you're not approving of you, no one will be. And that's why you treat other people like shit.
exactly.
I think a lot of it comes down to that. I'm sure you've read the Maxwell Maltz and the self-image type of
Mm,
stuff.
mm,
Uh,
mm, mm,
that's probably one of the pillars of the self-development journey that I went on. I absolutely love that book. So
Yeah, it's a great book, by the way. Yeah, yeah. But to sort of not just step away, like in terms of like women, because you mentioned that you have a lot of women that are, listening or whatnot when it comes to selling. And I know that a lot of women who have products, right, or maybe they have an Instagram account, right? What they do is they listen to guys on how to sell to women, and then they go and use those tactics, and it falls flat on their face, and like, oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, of course it doesn't, because you're not being authentic, you're not being who you are, right? Because I'm pretty sure if you and I were not you specifically, Mason, but like whoever listened, like if you and I were friends, right? And you were like, oh, I have this thing that I've been using that's been helping me, blah blah blah. Like I would, like if you were telling me, like I would want to know what it is, and you would naturally sell me on that product because I might be interested, and you were just talking to me as a friend. So it's exactly the same with selling to women, and just like talk to them as your girlfriend, right? Like not just, trying to like sell, 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 but rather think of like, how can I help that person? And the sale will naturally happen.
I like that. When you say authenticity, a lot of the times I remember my mom's I just want you to be present with me for once. Like the presence, I don't know why that's
Mm-hmm,
sticking out to me
mm-hmm,
so much.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I want to showcase a little bit of you. What you've had the really great launches. You've traveled over to some really beautiful places. You've done quite a bit in your career. I'd say what has been one of the most fulfilling moments that you've had so far?
Well, I would say that life in general is extremely versatile, and there is not like one thing that's been, very great. There's a lot of moments, and I like to live in the moment and appreciate, as much as I can. Like my favorite thing to do is actually go to the beach in the morning and watch the sun rise. Like that's legit my favorite thing in my day all the time. It makes me very happy to see the sun. Like I actually become very joyful, like to the point I'm like almost crying, right? I just love it, right?
Bliss. Yeah, I like
Yeah, it's just I can't even express the feeling of like, seeing the sunrise and just like having this a whole day ahead of you, like that is filled with opportunities, opportunities to change your life, to change other people's life and that sort of stuff. But I think the best part about my sort of recent last 5 years journey is actually doing what I do and meeting wonderful people. Like through being a copywriter and marketer, like I've met a lot of, amazing, smart, authentic people, people like yourself, some of my best friends I've met them through, marketing circles, I would say, and then us, traveling together and creating memories together. So yeah.
has there been a moment like where you knew you were destined for success or you decided it?
Hmm. It's a really good question. Actually, something that I ponder upon. Well, I'll tell you that much that I don't know if there's been like a single moment like that. I do know that when I was a much younger, like a teenager, maybe even a kid, when I had teachers that would tell me like, oh, like kindness or you just have to do this thing and try to put me in a box. Like my question would be like, why just here? Like why
Like my
not
question
go
a while ago?
outside of the box, right? Like, or they would be like, oh, like the country is so great, but like, so long as we don't have a war, like, it's good enough to live here. And be like, well, why do we compare, like where we live to like the worst of the worst, not to compare it to like the best of the best, right? Like why not to go and explore? Like I always know that where I'm from like wasn't enough for my ambition. Um, but my drive for success actually has to do with not necessarily, about the money and luxury stuff, although I do love that. It's more so about seeing the potential and trying to get as much of it as I can. Because I do think that as humans, we have this like, we have the brain that is so fucking amazing. It just like the fact that we're able to speak and talk and read and and think and come up with ideas, like to me that's fascinating, right? I just want to get as much as I can out of the brain in this timeline and time life span, right? But also this whole thing. sort of like a balance between like having so much distraction with, like the social media and everything, right? And just like to me that is fascinating, like how to balance all the things, enjoy the life, and kind of get the, as much as I can out of my brain. And if that leads to success, whatever you define as success, great. So
Yeah, how you feel about the morning sun is how I feel when I hear brain stuff, or it's like spatial
hmm
orientation. How are
hmm
visual and auditory and physical motor maps all overlay? And it's when people feel bad, it's not a feeling, it's neurochemicals, motherfucker. It's
hmm
cortisol. It's normal and it's so beautiful. I love that you brought that up. If What's the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself through copywriting?
no, well, that I'm actually good at copywriting.
How do you know you're good?
Well, I'll tell you that much. So historically speaking, I never really thought of myself as a creative person, right? Like I never really been great at like, like drawing or, like writing poems, although I used to do a lot of that, right? Like I never really thought of myself as like a being like super creative, like just like doing something with my hands type of stuff. Like never me. Like I was as a kid super active, played all the sports under the sun you can think of. Like I've done it all, right? Like I used to sing, I used to dance, like all of that stuff, right? But actually sitting down, like typing or like putting sort of like the ideas in my head and just kind of like, creating something. Like I never thought of myself that this is what I'm good at. And then through my journey, like I actually started writing blogs when I was a personal trainer, and that was it. Like I enjoyed it, but it felt like giving birth a lot. And then over time, like being basically writing something, putting the ideas on a piece of paper, and like people just like, paying money for that. I was like, oh shit, that's kind of cool, right? And just like giving, a bunch of ideas to people. Like one of my clients right now, like they generating over I think it's like 600,000, a little bit over a year, and like a month, sorry. And we were talking about, they're launching a new product and just like, shooting ideas and giving them idea for like their mass, product, mass market product, and just seeing it works. I was like, oh, actually, I'm actually quite good at that. So just getting the feedback, right? And realizing like, I have so many wins under my belt for my clients. I guess, I am good at it. I'm not saying I'm the best, nor am I striving to be that. It's more so, trying to get the best that I can be. And yeah, I think that's the creativity aspect was quite a huge surprise to me.
Yeah, I've never taken any formal like copywriting stuff, but like the way you can play with words and structure things and change the
hmm
meanings. I've started off all of this communication stuff through NLP. I just fell in love with the way people worded things, and I met a guy named Simon Gledhill. He changed my life the way he told stories, and I was like,
hmm
that's what I want. I want people to look at me and feel like I feel when I listen to Simon, and it's like one of the most beautiful moments that I've ever had in my life. It was probably the last time I even had tears roll out of my eyes. Not like
hmm
I couldn't control it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, it was good. So what's one sentence or campaign that you're really proud of?
Ah, see, you're talking to me as a man, right? Like there is not one thing.
Not
Like I'm
one.
proud of
I know I'm
everything.
putting you
You
in
know
a
what I mean? Like
box.
it's not like it's not about, like, oh, like writing this, like the campaign that like crushes it and like make it like it's not about the metrics, right? For women, it's all about how it's what we feel, how we feel about ourselves, and like what we did for other people. It's all about, helping others. Like to me, if I am writing something and it's helping literally thousands of people, I've done my job, right? Like it like I look at it from a perspective like, sure, like it's just me, one person who writes, this piece of copy, right? But if I'm working with a client who is able to reach thousands and thousands and thousands of people, like I've done my job as a human because I was able to help that person to reach a much broader audience, and they're actually helping them, right? I don't write for scams ever, like that's sort of my thing. So
Yeah.
there is not like, one thing that I'm very insanely proud of, right? It's like, yes, I had the launch that I worked with one of the top five biggest financial influencers in the world. She's got over 20 million followers, and it was like $1 million launch. Like that, all of that is great, and it's great on paper. It's great, whatever. But to me, it's the fact that we actually were able to help over like 60,000 people, right, to get familiar with investing, to start investing, and actually get very certain about the future. That to me is more important than like having like, oh, I have like, $1 million launch type of stuff, right? Like that's to me is not fulfilling.
Yeah, no, what I was trying to ask, like, there's times when I write something or I'll say something, I was like, man, like that just, I don't know why it sounded so beautiful, so good. Like,
Mhm.
uh, have you had any moments like that? You're like, I don't know where this came from, but I fucking impressed myself. It's like, this is fucking killer.
I mean, the thing is to me, and I know this is not to shit on your, excitement, but I think it's a very male perspective, because that's a
It
lot of
absolutely
that
is. I
that's
recognize
that's a
that.
lot of ego talking, right? It's like you'll see
Correct.
guys, like on the internet be like, I just wrote this best copy, blah, blah, or like, we have the best platform, blah, like according to who, right? It's like to me, like if I write something and I think like this is fucking killer, and I enjoy what I wrote, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't even matter what my client thinks. What matters is whether people are buying or not. That's what matters. Because if I'm writing something and people are buying, that means that is resonating with them. That means that I, as a copywriter, marketer, understood them on a deeper level to be able to communicate why they need to buy this goddamn product. That's what matters. What I think about my copy does not fucking matter in the slightest. It doesn't matter what, like, because I can get on the internet and be like, like, I have the best, blah, blah, blah. I wrote the best fucking subject line. Like, all of that is great. And people will sort of buy that hook whatsoever, right? Because that's what
The
all gurus
claims
do.
and the hype. Yeah.
The claims and the hype and whatever. But ultimately, it's all like the proof has to be in the pudding, right? If I'm writing something and it's crashing, great. Like our recent launch, I'll be honest with you. The recent launch for one of my publishing offers, like we did close to like 50,000, right? In like the idea came, I had an idea 3 weeks later, we did a launch, whatever, $50,000. Like it was great. But I was like, I didn't really like the copy. Like I didn't feel like, I did my best or whatever, but it still produced results, right? So like I'm not gonna be, like very hard on myself, be like, oh my God, like the piece of copy that I wrote like wasn't, like I didn't really enjoy it. Like it doesn't fucking matter. If it's helping people, we're good, you know?
So would you say from a, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like meta models and all that stuff, but it sounds like internal versus external frame of reference. Like if it's not selling, it doesn't matter how good I feel about it. But
Yeah,
they both
well,
be perspective for business.
yeah, well, the thing is, okay, like here's my stance on NLP, and I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I would say that much is that NLP, a lot of this is just like a tool for a lot of people to use words to gaslight and manipulate people into doing something, whether good or bad, right?
Absolutely. Well,
Right?
it's language first and foremost.
Language, exactly, exactly, right? So I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is good. I'm just saying the way that I see it, right? My way of looking at writing copy is, and talking to people and understanding people, is actually see them as people first and foremost, understanding them,
Absolutely.
right? Asking questions. And so could it be like internal versus external type of stuff? Like, if you could, yes, I am more like internal type of person. Like, I don't care what other people say, like it's more about like, do I feel good or do I not feel good, whatnot. But really, a lot of the times is, to me, as a person, as a human being, I do think that we have, our purposes in life. And over time, it's more clear to me that it's more about helping people in whichever capacity, mostly, like sharing the knowledge. But to me, the way that I think about, whether or not my copy is good is the feedback from the actual crowd, from the people, right? Whether they buy or not. Like, I don't care what my client says. A lot of the times I'll be like, listen, I'm happy that you like what I write, but let's take a look. how it actually performed, because that is the main thing. It doesn't, like, the feelings of a client don't really matter. Like sometimes, a client would be like, oh, like, this is like such a simple copy. And I'm like, that's fine. You don't like it. Let's see what your audience says. And if that crashes, I'll be like, fucking told you, right? So it's not about like like, do I have the ego? Of course, all of us have ego. Ego definitely happens when we all die, right? But it's like, to me, it does, like, I don't have the sausage to swing on the internet to talk about, like, I wrote the fucking biggest,
I'll,
like,
I'll say
I don't give
life's
a
easy
damn.
sometimes. Life's easy sometimes with the sausage, right? Something
Oh,
dangling between.
of course,
The reason I asked that, I think there's a very healthy balance between the middle of both you and I's perspective on that. It's like
Yeah.
I just love creating things. I started
Hmm.
off as a kid. I don't know. I went around with my hammer. I don't know why I always called it a hammer instead of a hammer. My mom still makes fun of me for it to this day. But I think a good balance between creating and realizing when it comes to business, doesn't matter if you create something if no one's fucking buying it. And so
Exactly.
I think a healthy medium in between those two is a very healthy perspective for people to adopt if they want to make money and be proud of the things they're doing. Because I think on a long enough time horizon, it's like when I first started off with NLP, I realized like, wow, I can complete. If you manipulate how people perceive things, you can manipulate their behavior. And I was like,
Of course.
I can get away with some sneaky shit. Should I do it or should I not? And it takes a big set of balls and a good sausage to not just completely fucking ruin people. And I know
Yeah, of
you've seen
course.
it. People just fucking scam. I hate that shit. I'll
Yeah.
fight these fuckers and I'll win. I'll win.
Well,
So
the thing is, I would say that maybe it's because, you and I sort of exist somewhat in this sort of bubble, like, of Facebook, right? It was like, a bunch of marketers, bunch of group, but really, ultimately, like, like, selling is not that hard, like, copywriting is not that hard. You don't have to manipulate people. You have to gaslight people into buying your shit, so long as you know what exactly the person in front of you needs and how the product actually helps them to reach that goal. And you can communicate that, because creating a good product and then selling that product are two different things. It's like, there are people who, like, really good at, like, you'll have, billion-dollar companies that are, they're billion-dollar companies that have a lot of, minds that create really good products, right? But they have sales teams, right, that actually do the selling of the product, right? Their marketing, like, could be like shitty. As a matter of fact, a lot of those, like, multi-million dollar companies, like, they don't have, like, sales funnels as we do, as we know of them, right? But what they do is, like, really good sales team, and those salespeople know and understand their audience very, very well, right? Without actually having to, like, like, manipulate and gaslight people into buying their stuff.
100%. It's just guys, keep in mind because you can learn some really powerful techniques and strategies, and it's not worth violating ecology because
Of course.
you'll feel like a piece of shit. You'll feel like
Yeah.
you'll feel like a piece of shit. So just don't fucking do it. Listen to us.
Yeah, because ultimately it's all about how you feel when, it's super dark, you lay in, at night, it's midnight, you're there by yourself in your bed, and, like, how the fuck do you feel about yourself?
Yeah, you're
That's
looking
all
over
that
your
matters.
shoulder underneath the
Exactly.
bed. You're like, is a fucking
Yeah.
clown down here?
If you're waking up at 3, 4 in the morning and you're so anxious about who you are, where you are in life and everything, like, that's a reflection on you. No matter what people tell you, it's maybe like whatever that, it's all about the, like, if you cannot fucking sleep at night, there is something wrong with you. I'm just kidding. But really, just like, if you wake up with an anxiety, like, there's whatever you're doing is not really fulfilling. So you gotta take a look inside and see what's happening there.
I have a fun question for you. If you had to create a marketing campaign to sell me the world, what would your headline be?
Well, why do you need the world?
Why do I need the world?
Yeah,
Why not?
but why?
Just because I want it.
And you want it because,
You can change it then.
and why do you want to change it?
Be proud of who I am as a person.
Are
Help
you
a
not
lot of
proud of
people.
yourself? Are you not proud of
Absolutely.
yourself right now?
Absolutely,
Well,
I am. No reason not to get more proud, more accomplished, more progress.
does more equal better?
In some aspects, absolutely for me.
Why is that?
In others, not so much. In
Why is
others,
that?
not so much. But it's I wouldn't say the right word is legacy, but like
Mm,
I'd say a good imprint.
hmm
Kind of like it's a everlasting, timeless. Those are probably some of my favorite words. And me personally, when I look at some of the greatest conquerors of the world, Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, like very accomplished men. And I know this is a lot of ego and pride talking, but it's like it's absolutely beautiful seeing all the things they built, the creations, the structure, the architecture, the cities, the culture, and it's like that's awesome. Like that's a level of aspiration I think a lot of men should have. They wouldn't
hmm
be watching fucking porn and doing dumb shit if they had aspirations and goals in life to do amazing things and save a lot of people, get rid of a lot of evil, shit like that.
hmm
So that's what I'd say
hmm
I'd do with the world. I'd
I
burn a
love
lot of
that.
shit down to rebuild it.
Well, here's my question to you. Would you say that, I don't know if you've ever played Lego as a kid.
Of
Uh,
course.
well, then, well, you know how usually you build the entire, like the biggest Lego set, right? You usually start with like one piece and then you put
Yep.
another piece and then you put another piece, right? Would you say then, in order for you to build the world of Lego, you have to start with just one piece, right?
Absolutely. I agree
Right?
wholeheartedly.
So wouldn't you say then that before you start changing the world, before you can take over the world, it would be probably better to start with just changing one person's world?
100%. Absolutely. You do it piece by piece.
Yep. So that's what I would probably sell you on, but not on the whole world.
What would the headline be for that? That's
I don't
beautiful. And guys, what I want you to do is rewind the last 6 minutes of this
know.
and watch her thought process and how she does that. Okay? Watch her thought
I just
process
ask
and how she
questions.
does
I
that.
just ask
But that's all it is.
questions.
People come on there
It's
and like, you need
hilarious.
this because of X. Like, if you noticed, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Sun Tzu's work, Art of War, but he talks a lot about
Mm,
only we can secure ourselves from defeat. Like only
mm,
we know how we can be defeated, which
yeah,
tells me, in other words, if we look at this from a marketing and a sales perspective, only people can tell you how they want to be sold.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
like,
And yeah, and the thing is also like, I'm actually not a fan of like coming up with something on a spot because really it's the first, like when I architect the funnel or, like the sales page, whatever, I do ask a lot of questions. And those questions then lead me to connecting a bunch of ideas, right? I'll think about, the stories, like one of those would be, like maybe potentially providing analogy, right? Such as, the Lego set and that sort of stuff, right? And out of that research, which whoever tells you not to do research is full of shit. They want to sell you something, right? But you have to do the research because out of that research will come out a lot of good ideas. In fact, don't even start with just one headline. Write 10, write 20. And like probably after you write 20, like your 21st is going to be exactly what you were looking for. So the whole thing of like coming out on the spot type of stuff is great, right? But 99% of the time, like your 21st coming out on the spot type of stuff is going to be exactly what you're looking for. So,
I like that. That's typically what I do for webinars or anything is I'll write
mm,
every single piece of information. I start taking stuff away and leaving what's the best, the most concise, the most sequential. That's really good. I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
what's a controversial belief that you have about marketing, sales, entrepreneurship? What's a controversial belief? Because if you guys notice, Lana is very direct in her communication.
Can't you tell?
Is this where we
Well,
all decide you're like secretly a superhero?
more like a KGB agent. No, just kidding. I would say that my controversial take is nobody really needs to spend 3 hours a week on marketing lessons. Oh, not marketing, sorry, the mindset lessons, right? The reason I say that is because do we all have, limiting beliefs? Absolutely, right? But we, um, like when you look at people who are extremely successful and millionaires and billionaires, I happen to know a lot of people who came from nothing and they became multimillionaires, like the first in their family. And it's the same people who tell me, like when I ask them, like, what do you think made you successful? It's just one fucking thing. Don't overthink it. Start taking action. That's it. Because I can guarantee you, even if you don't know how to do the thing, so long as you keep going, you will figure it out, right? Sitting there, figuring out, like, why do you have this limiting belief? Why is it pulling you back and blah, blah, blah? You're literally fucking wasting time. If you don't believe me, I encourage anybody who's listening, take a look at where you were 6 months ago, right? Look at all of the hours that you potentially have spent on watching and doing the fucking mindset work, and look at where you're at right now. And if are there any changes? Are you as successful as you thought you're gonna be? Or every time you think like this is it, this is the reason why I can, like, it doesn't fucking matter why you cannot get there. What matters is the reason you're not fucking there is because you're not doing shit. Period. End of story. You can manifest, you can do whatever the fuck, but you have to take action. As a matter of fact, the second I stopped getting involved in the fucking mindset work, the more money I started making. Go fucking figure.
I see why people like you. That was absolutely brilliant. And see,
I just
guys, because
say
I'm not the one saying it sounds way more
that's
pleasant.
another thing.
Oh man, this is you're probably my favorite person I've talked to on here. This is absolutely
I bet
brilliant.
you tell it to everyone who's on this call.
No, not really.
Just
I'm
kidding.
very direct in terms of my communication as well, if you haven't noticed. I can slip some embedded stuff, some indirect shit in there. I
Mm.
noticed a smile. So I want to ask you something. If someone is listening to this and like if there's since two-thirds of my audience is funnily enough women, if
Mhm.
there's a girl out there, there's a woman out there listening to you wondering how she can build a life like yours where she can travel to beautiful places in the world, celebrate holidays with their family, not really be restricted, not have to conform to anything, but kind of can maneuver things into how she wants it to be and express herself,
Mhm.
how would
Mhm.
she go about doing that?
Don't.
Don't?
Just kidding. Kidding. No, well, the thing is, really, I think that every woman who aspires to, and like by all means, I know that my life looks absolutely fabulous on social media, and I do love my life absolutely, but I'm always striving for, better, best, and whatnot. I have my goals and aspirations, but I've always wanted to travel. Like as a kid, like I used to beg my mom to buy me National Geographic magazines. Like they were so freaking expensive, and I grew up, poor and whatnot. And I remember like begging my mom to buy them, and she begrudgingly would do so every now and then when she had enough money. I remember just like really being inside of those fucking pages and just like troubling in my brain, right? I always wanted to do it, right? And then you have this aspiration. It all starts from actually making a decision to do something about it, right? It doesn't have to be copywriting. It doesn't have to be marketing, right? Choose something, right? Maybe you're really good at organizing things, right? Like play to your strength. I kind of happen to like writing and then realize that I'm actually really good at it, right? But my sort of the reason I became a copywriter was like a very simple need. Like I needed to fucking make money or else I would go homeless. That was that. And then I fell in love into this sort of thing, like with the play on words and like, this sort of stuff. So just do stuff. Just choose something, right? Try, give it well, not 9 months, but like maybe 90 days, like 6 months, something like that. Go choose one thing, try it, see what happens, fail, try it again, fail, try it again, right? Another thing is do seek help from people because I would say that one of the reasons why I was fairly successful is that I chose one person to learn from. And I kind of like was listening to them, but I also was listening to myself. So I wasn't using everything that that person was telling me, right? It's more like, does this align with me and who I am? And, like, does this feel right? As a matter of fact, I guess the least successful I was as a copywriter and the person was when I actually was listening to a certain individual giving advice. and that was not working. Like I just like their advice wasn't in line with like who I was, but I still chose to listen to them because they were supposedly the best of the best and whatever, right? But just go out there and don't be afraid of going and doing things. Sometimes you'll feel like you might be losing friends because you're going on this adventure. That's fine. You know, those are not your people. You'll find your other people. When it comes to potentially, going into this, like a male dominated field, I will tell you that I never like, yes, there are some dudes that are absolutely fucking worst people on a planet, and but realize that their stuff is like it has to do with their own egos. It's all about them. I've been called stupid by, yes, that too. I've been called stupid by some of the, like the best copywriters, like you guys that coach copywriters how to be great. And I'm like, that's really shows who you are as a person. Like you don't know me, you never even got a chance to get to know me. You took something online, you twisted it and said that, this is a stupid advice and this person is stupid. Well, joke's on you. Like you probably have a small penis and you cannot fucking deal with that. But
Oh,
so it's like the it helps to be friends with men because really like we here are coexisting, right? And it's like I don't believe this, like, oh, like if you're a woman in a male dominated field, like it's so hard. It's as hard as you make it to be, right? I am friends with guys. I think men are wonderful, right? I don't shit on men. I think that men are all horrible. Like, yes, there are fucking idiots, absolutely. Just like I don't give them the time of my day. That's it.
yeah, I'll say this for dudes who have to like, I know there's not, unless they're Ronda Rousey, there's probably not a good chance that a woman's just going to kick my ass. And so for me to belittle myself enough to bully someone, I could pick up with one hand and shit like, what the fuck does that say about me? Like if you have to do that to show how strong you are, I don't think you're very good at being a man. Like if you have
Yeah,
to
of course.
bully someone like that, it,
Well, the thing is,
I think
like
that
if you
shit's
look,
stupid.
like we're really great at nurturing, right? And we're really great at actually being kind and loving people and helping people, right? And just like, look, there is a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And you notice naturally that, like you have a bunch of moms together, even non-moms, there's a bunch of kids, like women are helping each other, like it's like, there's a very beautiful thing that is happening, right? Like we're very nurturing, right? Man, in order to get that from woman, has to turn on your protection, thing, right? Like being a protector in order for you to reach that, right? But if you're gonna bully a woman, trust me, women are very fucking smart, and we can destroy you just by playing mind games. We fucking can't do it. But we just a lot of times we just don't choose not to do it because why bother? I mean,
Why
you're
waste
gonna
the
like
energy?
exactly, you're gonna do it to yourself. So like good luck, buddy.
That's what I tell you. Like, if you notice something negative in a woman that you don't like, it's a reflection of you, motherfucker. Pay attention. Women are
Exactly.
mirrors of their
Exactly.
man.
Exactly. What? Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the same thing, I do think that, a lot of the times that even for women, like if you see like guys that you're like, oh, like he's this and this and this and that, a lot of the times, like there is a reason, like there is a trigger, like, what's triggering, like, and I think if we're more just ask ourselves to these questions like like why am I acting this way, like, or why is this person triggering versus like just like putting the blame on the person, like we can all grow together much faster and become much better human beings in general.
I wish more people had a healthy philosophy like that of change and growth, but change and growth to most people means something's wrong with me. Something must be wrong with me if I have to change. So
Yeah.
therefore, I'm not going to do it. If you guys
I mean, there might be something wrong with you, of course, but like it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or anything. If you don't like something within you, there's only
change it,
one way. There's only one way to change it, and there's only one person who can change it, and that's you. And there is nothing wrong with that. Like there's a lot of things that I personally, qualities that I, didn't like about myself, and I changed them. Like there were a lot of triggers that I didn't like about, within me, and I work on them. It's like we're here as imperfect as we can be. And I think one of the greatest things, of being a human being is actually having the ability to change, to adapt, to grow and to explore and just, be as a human being,
Humanity is absolutely fascinating. I'd be curious to see what the world's like in 200, 500 years. It's like,
Mm.
fuck, man, I really hope they do come out with medicine or some type of cryo technology to where I can fall asleep for 1,000 years and wake up and see like dragons and like I don't know if you've ever played the game of Halo, but they live on like these huge like rings. I played it in grades like middle school, but man, like
Mm.
technology in the future like that, and we're like riding snowboards in the air or something. That'd be cool. Do you have a hard stop at 11?
No, no, I don't.
Okay, I have a rapid
Mm.
fire, and then we'll
Mm.
close this down. So I just have some rapid fire questions for you. Just
Go
go
ahead.
go with your gut instinct. All right, Lana?
I always do.
What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
That's Real Housewives of Beverly
Real
Hills.
what? Okay, coffee or cocktails?
None,
None.
neither.
Okay. One
I
thing you'll
don't do
never
either.
travel without.
One thing that will never travel without my pillow.
That's a good answer right there. And what's a word you overuse in your copy?
Oh, that's a good thing. I think that would be probably the word because.
Oh, every other line is because.
Because, or you see, or like, and because of this, or this means
It's
all
very
this
good.
transition.
It's good for that sequentiality, that timeline.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
when I see people literally.
Literally, or
Oh God.
like.
Oh God. What? Can you stop it? Please make it stop. All right. Lana, where
For
can they
sure.
go to connect with you? How like whatever the peoples need to do.
Well, whatever the people need to do, they can find me on Facebook, Lana Sova. They can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel where I talk everything about how to start a freelance business, how to, write copy that sells and marketing, that sort of stuff. Also, Lana Sova. I think it's right now. I do have a community in school which you can find also. It's called Copy Continuum. And yeah, but just reach out to me on I do have a profile on Instagram. I just am not there. So you'll find me there. And you send a friend request, chances are I will not approve you just because I'm not there, really. There's just a profile. But Facebook is more active. YouTube, those would be the two to go to.
So you guys go to Facebook and YouTube, and if you notice when you go to Lana's profile, what I want you to do is if you feel moved or anything, there's a link. Is it the Freedom Formula?
Oh yeah, so yeah, I read the book. It's called Full-Time Freedom Formula. It's
Yeah, guys,
basically,
go get
yeah, my
the
journey to go from zero to six figures as a freelance copywriter.
guys. It's an ebook. There, if the United States government, listen, I know a lot of you out there think you don't make enough money, and that's not your real problem. Your problem is that you don't make money fast enough. Okay, and so if you're looking for an opportunity to compress time and make more money per hour, make yourself worth some more, go click the link in her bio. It's a phenomenal opportunity. I'm telling you, there's nothing more beautiful than speaking or writing words and having strangers give you money. It fuels everything. Go buy your couch, your kids' call. Like it's absolutely beautiful. All the money you want, it's out there. If the United States government can send millions of dollars to help mutilate children in other countries, do you think you can make at least a couple 100,000? I promise you, you fucking can. All right, so go click the link in her stuff. Go learn copy. That way, the world's a better place, and I have more things to read in my free time. So,
For sure. One thing that I will tell you guys is that I never sugarcoat it, and there is no such thing as free money. Even when you play lottery tickets, you still have to pay to play, and you have to pay a lot to win something. All that to say is whether you're starting to make money online, you still have to put in the hours, you still have to put in the works. But if you can build somebody else's business between hours 9 and 5, you can definitely build your lifestyle, your dream, life between hours 5 and 9 a.m. So it's a matter of priorities. So just fucking go and do it.
100%. Well, Lana, it's been an absolute privilege to have you on here. My heart
Well,
sings to see you
thank you
once
very much.
again. Do the honorable curtsy and bow. Look, if you guys know, go look at the dance between us the whole time. This is how dynamic should be. Okay, this is how people should treat one another. So I love you all. Keep being awesome. Go support Lana. Go become a copywriter and go do some cool shit. Get the fuck quit mental masturbating. Okay. Lana, you
Thanks
want to
for
close us
listening, guys.
down? Drop a
Hell
bomb for us,
yes.
okay? Tell them to fuck off or something.
No, just thanks for listening. I appreciate your time and go do something awesome with your life, you guys.
All right, see you guys.